Trial attorney and legal analyst Wendy Patrick is with us now to talk about the trial as the jury selection process wraps up and we get ready for these opening arguments. I want to start with the gag order issue. Pretty interesting to hear former President Trump say, why can everybody else talk, but I'm not allowed to? You could argue he's got a much larger microphone. His audience is vast. He can reach a lot more people. But does he have a point there that it seems unfair that he's the one where the gag order is being placed?
Well, Marni, gag orders often include what we call reply statements. So a gag order doesn't mean that somebody can't say anything about the case. It has to be narrowly tailored, as this one is. Remember, he's allowed to talk about the judge, the DA. He can't talk about witnesses, jurors, or the family members of the judge, the DA, or any of the court staff. So this has been narrowly tailored, but that doesn't mean it can't be amended now that you have issues such as the one you raise, where Michael Cohen can get on the airwaves over the weekend and say what he wants to say, and the former president cannot respond. That'll no doubt be one of the most contentious issues that's going to be discussed. I don't know whether he has a leg to stand on about not being able to intimidate or harass jurors. I don't think his lawyers are going to argue he should be able to do that. But it is true that in the spirit of fairness, the judge may decide to re-examine the parameters of what he can and can't say.
And if he does violate, if Trump does violate the gag order that currently is in place, I mean, what are the possible penalties in this very unique situation the judge would look to impose?
Very unique situation indeed, because normally there's a warning, then a second warning, and then we might go to something like fines. Then fines are increased. As the last resort, incarceration is a possibility, although something like house arrest would probably be more practical in a case like this. It would basically prevent him from campaigning even when he's not in court. So those are not very viable options, and I don't think the former president would like any of that to be imposed. However, I don't know whether or not he's not courtroom campaigning every time there is a break. The issue that will be litigated next week is what can he say? Because all eyes are on this trial, that's for sure. He does have an audience.
Right. And where can he say it? On the campaign trail, on social media, you name it.
Right.
Wendy, which side benefits based on the jury that has been selected so far, the makeup of this 12-person jury?
What an interesting question, Marni. I could probably take the whole rest of your show regarding my thoughts on that, because what we've seen is this colorful cast of characters really does represent the swath of Manhattan that they're coming from. I do have to say I've followed with great interest the jurors that have been selected. One thing they have in common is that most of them get their news from a variety of sources. In other words, they're not living in silos. So that's what makes that question more challenging to answer than if all of them had said Fox News or CNN or TikTok, like some of them said. But instead, they seem to be more well-rounded. And even those that had somewhat critical statements to make about some facets of the former president's personality, even then tempered their answers with the reality that they could be fair. Also, remember, Marni, though, both sides, they only get 10 peremptory challenges each. They went through them all, so they might want different jurors, but this is the best of the lot that they were chosen.
Yeah, fair and impartial is the task now. Prosecutors will not tell Trump's team who the first witness will be when the trial starts on Monday, presumably. How unusual is that?
Very unusual, but it's also a very unusual case, very unusual set of circumstances. And back to the gag order, a very unusual, shall we say, cautionary measure, given that there are 2 days in the weekend and the former president may be tweeting and posting the entire time because we know he's going to be out on the campaign trail. So what we don't want to have happen, and what this judge doesn't want to have happen, is have the witnesses that are going to be testifying on Monday intimidated in any fashion over the weekend, not necessarily just by the former president, but by any of his proxies that want to speak out and challenge or prejudice what's going to happen on Monday. We want these brave men and women that are going to be on the jury to have a fresh look at the testimony and not be unduly influenced by anything anybody else says.
All right, so prepare us better for Monday. What can we expect with these opening statements? What will you be looking for?
I'll be looking for really the groundwork of what's going to involve the entire rest of the case. Both sides are going to have an opportunity to lay out what they expect the evidence and the facts to be. In a case like this, there will be twists and turns. I always say fasten your seatbelts because we don't quite know what to expect. But to the best of their predictive ability, both the prosecution and the defense are going to have their shot at laying out that roadmap, and that's going to be a powerful part of the case. Jury selection may be most important in the long run because these are going to be the judges of the facts and the evidence. But opening statement is really the opportunity to showcase what we're in for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. It will be critical here. Wendy, as always, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.